because I speak to them so plainly, because I don't put up with their BS.
Yeah.
They rise to a different level, a different occasion. Like finally someone gets me and somebody is calling my greatness out.
Right.
And that's what we all need. Stop playing small. Your neurotransmitters in your brain want to keep you small and safe, and somebody else has to rattle your cage. Says, what are you doing?
Yeah.
You know who you are. Rise up and be the thing you know you're supposed to be.
Welcome to the Age of Lions podcast, a platform and community dedicated to bringing purpose, strategy, and calling to kingdom-minded people who are 50 plus and excited about their next chapter. Here's your host, Mark Clement.
Well, if you can tell from the first 45 seconds, this is going to be quite the episode. That is our guest, Angus Nelson, and we are thrilled to have him today. Angus is a longtime friend. We've known each other for many, many years. He is an executive coach, coaches the top 1%, CEOs, founders, presidents of companies, leaders of all types. And he has some incredible insights today talking about the power of mindset, talking about the neural pathways in the brain and how all that connects and how we're wired versus how we need to be. And I mean, it just goes on, and it's an incredible thing. As we were kind of getting ready to put this out there were so many highlight clips. I didn't know where to start. I didn't know which one to pick to put on, even on the front of the episode. So it's going to be great. And sounds probably a lot like a leadership podcast. And in some ways, I guess it is. But truthfully, what we really get into in the episode with Angus is his experience coaching older adults, because a lot of the founders, presidents, CEOs, they're older people. They've been around a while. They've been really successful. And he talks about the challenges that they have. And that's why that's important to us, those of us in that age range, as we begin to think about what's next for us, think about what's possible, think about what God might be calling us to do, and can we do it? What can we get it done? Can we figure it out? And Angus tells us beyond a shadow of a doubt, we absolutely can. And he gives some great coaching tips today about how to do that, how to reframe the way we think, how to stop believing the lies that the enemy throws at us and the stories that we tell ourselves. And it's really an amazing episode. So I can't wait to dive in. Before we get to that, thank you for being here. So glad that you're here. It's been an amazing, almost a month now. It's hard to believe this is episode 8, already 8 episodes out. And the feedback's been tremendous. Thank you so much for your comments on socials and other ways you've been emailing and texting. If you're not already part of the community, I want to encourage you to go to ageoflions.com and just click any button on there and just do the quick form and just say, hey, I want to be part of the community. I want to know what's going on ahead of time, early updates, exclusive offers in the future. It's going to be a great opportunity just to kind of get in the mix with us. And we want to have a conversation with you. We want to hear from you. And so help us build that. You can also like or follow us on any of the social platforms. You can like or follow us or rate the show on any of the podcast platforms or on YouTube. So however you're consuming this, we're so glad that you're here. And let's get ready for an incredible time with Angus Nelson. What's up, Angus? How you doing this morning, man?
I'm doing good. Boa tarde.
I say morning. It's not morning where you are. I guess it's late in the afternoon, right?
Yeah, that's why I said good afternoon in Portuguese.
Right. So for those of you who don't know, Angus is a longtime friend of mine. We met, 10 or 15 years ago, I guess, and kind of kept in touch, had some coffee here and there, and then you guys up and moved across the world to the other side. So
I do miss that frothy monkey.
I bet you do. You know, we have one in Birmingham now.
Nice.
We have a couple, actually. There's one just around the corner from us here in Homewood, and then there's another one, I think, downtown.
Nice.
Yeah, I had a meeting there the other day. I think about you every time I go there.
That's so great. So great.
And that does seem like a million years ago that we had that meeting. But anyway, man, appreciate you being on here. And we just want to start this off the way I do with everybody. And that is, at what age did you kind of have the realization or the aha moment or the funny story that just kind of said, you know, I'm definitely older than I like to think that I am. I'm definitely moving into a different stage of life. What was that for you?
I actually think that didn't happen to me until probably this last year. Okay. When suddenly injuries that I took just took way longer to heal. In fact, in particular, I was playing paddle, which is a popular sport out here in Europe.
Okay.
Kind of like tennis-ish, and it's definitely not like pickleball. It's kind of an in-between those two.
Okay.
And mix in a little racquetball. And it's a fun sport. Playing with my friends, I get a little competitive. One of them does a little backspin on the ball, drops it right in front of the net. I go sprinting towards it. And as I'm leaning forward, I flex my Achilles heel and I injure it.
Oh, man.
And here we are over a year later. And every so often it starts to hurt. It's kind of like those people who say, it's going to rain. My knee is starting to hurt. I know the pressure's changing or something like that. I have no idea, but I have these issues with my Achilles. And then in January, I had to go in for a procedure for some varicose veins and some kind of circulation issues in my legs. And that's when I was like, stuff ain't working the way it used to. Right. But what's interesting is, I don't feel younger. I go to the gym. I try to stay limber. I try to stay, somewhat strong and keep my physique. And not necessarily from anything, egocentric as much as it is. I'm now at a stage in my life where I have the time and the discipline to get into the gym more frequently than when I did, when I was in my 20s or 30s, when I honestly didn't give a rip.
Yeah. And you didn't have to work so hard to keep it.
Yeah. True that.
Speaking of the gym and living in Europe, are people over there generally more healthy or thinner or fitter or whatever than Americans, or what's that like?
I would say 100%. Okay. It's not 100% of the people, but 100% I agree. Europeans here, the food here. In fact, I just made sandwiches for my family. Everybody's sick in the house right now.
Okay.
So I played chef and I made some ham and cheese sandwiches with some fresh tomato and lettuce and onion and cut it all up. Oh, some fresh bread. All of that to say, if you don't eat your veggies or fruit within like 3 days, it starts going bad. It doesn't have all the same chemicals.
Wow.
Like when you buy M&Ms or Skittles, the colors of those candies aren't the same. The sugars are not the same because the restrictions they have on using dyes, on using, different sugars. There's higher taxes on sugared, colas or sodas and stuff like that. So generally speaking, yes, food conscious. In addition, I live in a city where, we have lots of transit. We have, the buses, we have the metros, and we have our feet.
Yeah.
And we walk a lot. The average, when I look at my steps here compared to where I was when I used to live in Nashville, my average step count was around 3,200 a day, throughout the year. And here, now that I'm here, is somewhere between, 9,000 and 11,000 steps a day.
Wow.
Just because that's the lifestyle. I went to the grocery store this morning to buy those veggies and I walked half a mile, just to go get the veggies. And to me, that's nothing. And because we live in also a very historic city, it's kind of cool because you're just round different corners and you get to see architecture and beauty and the tiles on the buildings. And it makes for a really lovely experience. And thus I keep my girlish figure with that as well.
So you mentioned the injury thing and the aches and pains. I know that's what a lot of people, and how old are you right now?
I'm 54.
54. Okay. I knew we were close. I couldn't remember exactly. So would you say that is the hardest part of getting a little older, is the physical side?
Yeah. Keeping up with my son. That's the part I don't like because I was an athlete, back in the day. So I'm going to retract that. I'm still an athlete. I'm just not quite as agile as I used to be. And gosh darn it, if I could find an ice rink, oh man, I'd be set. There's no ice rinks here. They don't play ice hockey here, but I grew up in northern Wisconsin.
Oh, okay.
I do miss getting on the ice and shooting a puck around.
Yeah, because you had that in Nashville. Nashville's become a hockey town. Yeah.
Yep.
So if that's the hardest part, what would you say is the best part of getting older?
Perspective, I think, is a really big piece. The highs and the lows are decreased. You don't get so bent out of shape, when things aren't going right, or you don't get too overly, out of your mind when things are going good. You get to just appreciate everything on a new level. And I think the second piece of that is I'm also enjoying the wisdom that I have because of everything that I've gone through. It gives me the perspective to be able to speak into the people that I serve from a far greater power.
Yeah, no doubt. How old were you when you guys made the transition to Portugal?
That was 3 years ago. 3 and some change.
So you're in your 50s already at that point. I couldn't remember how long it had been. Honestly, I thought it had been a lot longer than that. So I'm surprised it's only been 3 years. It feels like you've been gone longer.
Oh gosh, it feels on this end, it feels like a flash. Just like, oh my God, how have we been here 3 years already? This is crazy.
Well, and what's really interesting to me is as I've been talking to people, one of the most fascinating things I've found is there's sort of a divide between in people who are our age or older, the divide between those who are sort of staying in their lane and nothing really changes, and they've kind of gotten very, very, you could say stable, but you could also say stuck, but they're just very consistent in that way. And then you've got the other group, a smaller group, who's been a little bit more adventurous in their older age, their 50s in this case. They've made a big transition. Maybe it's a career change or whatever. But not only did you go from your previous life into coaching, I know that was a long process, but then you made this, what I think a lot of people would say is a dramatic decision to go, hey, we're going to uproot not just from our city, but our country and go to a completely different place. What kind of drove that for you? And what were sort of the pros and cons? Like, what were some things you had to kind of get okay with to do it obstacle wise, or things you had to overcome to say it's going to be worth it, even though there are some downsides, it's going to be better. What was that decision like?
I think part of how you set up that question is a critical piece is, not getting stuck in your status quo. We forget to live oftentimes. And even many of the people that I serve, it's to a point where they got comfortable, and then it's this question of this word called risk. Mm-hmm. They become risk averse because they don't want to lose what they have. Maybe they think in their mind that if I say no to this, thing that I'm leaving and say yes to something else, that's going to mean something. And that meaning they give it is built with some kind of stakes they've built up in their head. The truth is you are making an exchange, but it's not the exchange that you think. Mm. And these are these limiting beliefs that so many people garner throughout their years. And they have these stories in their head that says, what I'm experiencing, this is just how it is. It's the biggest lie. Wow. Because you have the power to do whatever it is that you want to do. If you want to change careers, you want to change roles, you want to change cities, you want to change countries, you can do it. It just simply makes a choice. And that's the interesting thing about beliefs. Beliefs are nothing more than a choice. You choose to believe or you choose not to believe. Can I pull this off? Can I give this up? Can I move forward? Can I let go? And unfortunately, too many people get into these restrictive mindsets where they get tunnel vision and what they know is all they know. And I think my family we've become experts at being uncomfortable. Mm. When it was 2014, shortly before you and I met in Nashville, I had taken my family for a full year traveling. And every month we're in a different city. And we'd sold our house in Huntsville, Alabama, and hit the road. And we started in San Diego and just worked our way across all the way to Aruba. And so our family had already gotten used to some of these kinds of mentalities to where my kids at the time were 3 and 4. And so here they were getting exposed to not hanging on to things, being more present with the current experience rather than holding the past experience. It's really trained us to, yes, have some nostalgia, but not let the nostalgia define us.
Okay.
Right? Yeah. It does that is a critical piece of this. So when we came to the point of saying, hey, it's the middle of COVID, nobody is promising us tomorrow. Like we could die, one of us could drop dead. Like the world is going crazy. what are we doing? And it had been on our dream board. In 2024, we were going to take a year in Europe with our family. And in the middle of COVID, we just pulled the trigger and said, we're not waiting.
Yeah.
And so we got here in 2022, over 2 years early, or we came 2 years earlier. And my kids, we made negotiations. We gave up our house, our community, our friends. And we came to a completely new place with a completely new culture and new language. And truthfully known, we'd never been here before. We came sight unseen. I remember you telling me that. Yeah. Right. And now it's like, okay, what's next?
Yeah.
It's just flexing a new muscle.
It is. And my wife and I talk a lot about the fact that comfort and growth are mutually exclusive. Like they don't exist in the same space.
Yep.
You can't grow, you can't change, you can't evolve if comfort is your goal. Mm-hmm. And hey, I like comfort. I like, that's fine. There's a place for it, for sure. But when it comes to that mindset piece, you're 100% right. Like it's, because I find when I talk about even much smaller changes, I mean, I haven't moved countries, but like in the last few years, my wife and I both have changed careers. I was doing what I was doing when I met you. Mm-hmm. And then there was a season for about 3 years when I was working on the executive team in a college, which I had never done before. Loved it. It was great. She actually works at that college now as well, left her career and did that. And then a year ago, that was done for me. And I transitioned back and started a new business and now started this thing. And like I'm living my best life. I'm loving it. But when I say it to people, they always kind of look at me like, why?
Yeah.
Like, what is and it's like, well, who seems happier, you or me? And I haven't conquered it all. I'm not the master of it all. This is what I'm doing with you right now is very new to me. I'm having a blast, but I'm just making it up as I go. I'm trying to figure it out and learn from other people, but it's fun and I'm excited about it. I'm talking about it and it's not the same old thing. And there is that fear. And I think people too, one thing we'll talk about is like, let's say we make this change. We change the career. Let's say we move to Portugal. Whatever the thing is. Mm-hmm. The reality is, what's the worst that can happen if it all fails?
Yeah.
And so when you play that out and you go, well, in your case, maybe you would have said, well, we lost a certain amount of money or we spent or wasted or whatever phrase you want to use. We lost some time. We did this, we did that. But at the end of the day, you're still healthy. You're still alive. Your family's still together. You can always move back to the state. Like it's the reward is so much bigger than the risk. Don't you think?
100%. And, to your point, there was a line that I put in my book that I had just finished the fourth section, and it should be done. I'm doing all the edits right now. It's going to the editor tomorrow. We are on the final stretches I'm making the last weeks.
That's awesome.
And one of the things I just wrote in there was this line that says, I'm too professional to complain, too senior to change, and too stuck to dream.
Oh, wow.
And that's where I think a lot of people are. They're like, hey, I've made it this far. Who am I to complain? Who am I to say, look, I've had a good run. Some people might be envious of what I've achieved. All is well. We're making it, right? And then they think I'm on too high of a level to change because then maybe whatever I do next means I have to be like you said, a learner, basically.
Yeah.
I have to start all over. I have to learn a new thing. Now I'm green behind the ears again. And that's an ego. That's, pride. That's all these other things. But it's more importantly, it's fear.
Yeah.
I know what I know and I'm confident in that, but I don't know what I don't know. And I'm scared spitless of that.
Yeah.
And especially in entrepreneurship, I like to say that there's nothing more spiritual than entrepreneurship because nothing will cause you to have faith, to believe, to trust in things you can't control more than being an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
It's the biggest expression of a faith-filled life.
Wow, that's great.
But when you get too stuck to dream, you've died already. Put your heels up and crawl in the dirt because you're not giving of your meaning and contribution to the world. You've stopped that growth. You've stopped that adventure. You stopped that thing called life, and life is built for expansion. We weren't given this place where we have dominion, authority, glory, and power to just put it under a bushel. Get your head out of your backside and wake up and see that you've been given a gift called life. Go live it. Okay, I'll get off my soapbox.
I was about to say, preach. No, it's so true. And, you know, this whole platform is really geared toward kingdom-minded people who anybody I hope can learn from what we're talking about, and they can. But when you have that spiritual component on top of it, and you talk about the purpose that God has designed you for and all the things, and I tell people all the time, like, you know, Scripture tells us that He didn't make us and then go, okay, I got to figure out something for them to do. He says he created us for the purpose. The purpose pre-existed, so He designed you to fulfill a thing He already had in mind. So there is something that we all can do, and it doesn't necessarily have to be what the world would call a big, fancy, sexy dream. It just might be that you're mentoring some kids. It could be that you're volunteering in the prison ministry at your church. It could be anything. But people, whatever that passion is, they tend to give up on it. I don't have time. I don't have what I need. I don't have experience. And you said it earlier, it's a total lie.
I think it's your own central nervous system that likes and prefers safety.
Yeah.
Your inner workings, and in the book, I call it the shadow. Mm. And we want to project the shadow as something evil and something, you know, that's trying to crush us or squelch us. And in my book, I talk about it's more like a helicopter parent. You know, you're going to go do something and it pulls out almost like a PowerPoint presentation of all the reasons why you shouldn't. This, you know, and it's like counterbalancing every hope, every dream, every whatever. It's like, nope, but what about this? And it's always bringing you back to quote unquote center, which center is status quo. And it comes from, you know, our evolutionary nature of when we used to have, you know, saber-toothed tigers and mammoths who are trying to squash us. So that fight, flight, you know, thing in our brain, that psychology is a real thing. And here we are in 2025, where we are faced with more information. We're deluged with more information than we've ever been in our lives. You know, it wasn't but 150 years ago where you'd be out on the farm and that's all you knew. And the only news you got was because, you know, the Johnsons next door told you, or you went to the town and you went to go get some supplies. And then Sally said, oh, have you seen the paper? Give him a nickel. Here's the paper. And, you know, I found out what's going on in the city. Like that was 150 years ago. That's it. And
yeah.
Now here we are compressed in time with the Industrial Revolution and all the wars and all the things that happened. And now all of a sudden we're in this technology wave where people our age, they're not afraid of having their jobs taken. It's kind of like, if I put in my time, they're not so concerned about that. What they are concerned about is becoming irrelevant.
Yeah.
And so their mind is in this fight and flight about all the change that's going on around them. And so then they turn inward and they try and fight any change that they can stop. And it's their dreams.
Wow.
Desires, and it's counterproductive.
It's so good. Well, and you talk about becoming irrelevant. That's certainly a fear that I hear people talk about a lot. They don't usually say it that directly, but that really is what they're talking about. And you mentioned it earlier. You talked about learning and what keeps us from learning, what keeps us from growing, and the pride and that kind of stuff. I remember I had a coaching thing that I had a coach that helped me with a thing about 15 years ago. And I remember him saying something I've never forgotten. Most of the people in the cohort were younger than I was. Most of them were in their early 20s. Mm-hmm. And I was probably in my early 40s at the time. And he made the point, he said, and he was younger than I was, but he was very wise. And he said, your biggest challenge in this, like, I love that you've applied to this and we've accepted you and your thing's exciting and all the things you're going to work on. He said, but your biggest enemy is going to be your age and your success. And he said, because you've been very successful at what you've done, there's going to be the temptation to say, I don't need help. I don't want to ask for help. And he said, it's nothing but pride. He goes, you've got to be willing to call in some favors. You've got to be willing to say to some people, hey, I don't know how to do this. Yeah. And it was a really good wake up call for me. I don't know if I'd have been that way or not, but he just kind of called it out before it happened and said, that's your biggest enemy at this point. If you want to accomplish this new thing, if you want to grow and do a thing you've never done before, you're going to have to be willing to act like you're 25 again. And it was something I've never, ever forgotten. And it was 1,000% true. And it really does make the biggest difference in that, because of the fear, wherever the fear is coming from, regardless of the mindset that we're trying to overcome, for sure. Yeah. Well, I wanted to ask you, tell me a little bit about your book. You've mentioned it a couple of times, and I know I saw on your site that you were working on something, and we'll put it in the show notes and stuff, like when it's ready to be published and stuff. But tell us a little bit about what's the bigger picture of the book.
Well, the book, as it's been in its current form, is titled Confidence Comes Later. But okay. I can assure you that title is changing because the book has taken a couple of turns, but that's just its operational book. So the publishers will decide. I've given them a few options to choose from. But the premise is kind of what you just described. And it addresses how we have had a moment of success. And the book is built for high achievers. You know, it's doesn't matter if you're an executive or if you're an entrepreneur, you're a founder, a SaaS company, doesn't matter. Are you someone who likes to kick ass and take names, and then suddenly you're stuck?
Yeah.
And exactly what we're talking about. And the book opens up with just getting in people's heads and their hearts and say, is this you? And it speaks to all the things that some of what you and I have talked about. But then in addition, it's like the people pleasing, and who might we let down, and who might we offend, and who might say we're silly, or who might think we're stupid, or who like all the different things that are exposing all of these fears. And I incrementally go through what I call the 7 evolutions. Because this thing that we're talking about, this psychology, this emotion, and this nervous system, is the one thing that technology cannot replace. And within the next 3 to probably 5 years, it's going to happen fast. A lot of jobs are just not going to exist anymore. Now, on one hand, that's a threat. On the other hand, it's a possibility. Because now you can change into something else and be and do something else. And you can take the opportunity to learn a new skill or a new expression of your background. In the book, I go and map out all the things that you've done in your career and in your past. And what stories are you telling yourself about those things? If you fell on your face, like myself, who went through addiction, I went through a lost business, I went through a divorce, I have all sorts of stories to tell myself why I don't deserve, why I'm not worthy, why I don't have what it takes. And all the things I did to change those stories so that now I could empower myself to be somebody different. And all those things that I went through were the tuition I paid for the graduation I now live. And so this book then goes through this story of basically taking away all of the excuses and then giving you in exchange all the reasons why you should step out to do the thing that's in your heart, because you have a dream that should not go to the grave. You have a dream that should impact the world. And not only will it give you the freedom that you've been so desiring, but it's also going to bring joy and love and laughter and expansion into the world, whether that be through the business, your colleagues, through your family, your spouse. Everyone else around you gets impacted when your light shines. And most people have gone dull.
And are you saying that it's really about, you can't change the past, you can't change what's happened. It's all about, do you frame those stories in a negative way, or do you frame them in a positive? What did I learn? How did I overcome? Is that what you're saying? Is that the key difference?
100%. And on a continual basis. So at the end of every chapter, we have these shifts, which are these strategic recalibrations, where you speak over yourself these different affirmations that I've designed, and then it's followed up with an emotion. It makes me feel ... because the neural pathways in our brain operate off of logic and emotion, and when they're combined, we create neural pathways. So the neuroscience to our lives is based on our control with intention, but most people don't put in that intention, so we operate by default. And so our programming and all of our inputs are just built on a daily basis, and we're like a pinball machine. We're just reactionary. But we aren't designed to be reactionary. We actually have been given power and influence over how we show up in the world, and that's called self-regulation.
Wow.
That's being attentive, that's being self-aware, emotionally intelligent, and all these other words that we use that sound so fancy. And yet nobody's applying them. Y'all, shut your mouth. Y'all, stop typing on the keyboard. Y'all, you're just reacting to what everyone else in the world is doing and thinking you're changing or helping.
Right.
It's like, no, you're just adding more fuel to the fire as a reactive individual versus staying present, staying powerful, and realizing that the world around us, most people are not paying attention.
Yeah.
And that's why they're all distracted.
That's so good.
They're fighting for power instead of the nothing. And one of the chapters I talk about this element called the nothingness. Nothing to prove, nothing to lose, nothing to gain. It's the most powerful person in any room. Because in that state, you actually create safety and psychological safety for the people around you. The people around you feel like, they're not dropping names. They're not, pulling a wad of cash out of their hand to try and look big or be big. They're not making me feel small. They're not capitalizing on the conversation. When you are in that state, you actually become a magnet. You attract people to you because your light shines brighter when you're not trying to manipulate or matriculate the situations. When you're operating out of striving or scarcity.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. Yeah. Yeah. Striving and scarcity are both such powerful motivators for people. I don't think the average person realizes, and like you, I know you and I, just from life experience and growing and kind of trying to work on this kind of stuff, like when you walk in a room, you can tell the people who are in those spaces, especially the striving, like the trying too hard, the overcompensating, the can't stop talking, and you see it more in younger people for sure, but it's really sad when you see it in an older person, a more mature, experienced person who is still in that mode, in that mindset, like they're trying to, like you said, trying to prove something, trying to like carve out their part of the room. And then, there's that person, whether who's sitting there, who's listening, actively listening, giving good feedback, actually talking back to the person about what they said. Not like you ever notice, I've even seen this in some of the interviews I've done here. There's the people who you can tell they're just waiting to say their next thing.
Yep.
And so they're not really hearing, what you're saying. And it's hard to watch. It really is, because you feel like, man, they're just they have no idea how they're coming across. They're not self-aware. They don't realize. Yeah, it's powerful. Well, you clearly are a coach. You clearly are you're good at what you do. And I love the energy you bring into this. So let's talk about that a little bit, because you've been doing that a long time. You're a very experienced coach, a really successful coach. And I think I said in the intro, but what Angus basically does is he coaches top 1%ers, high level executives, CEOs, entrepreneurs, et cetera. He's really helping people at that level. So I know not everybody you coach fits into the older category, the 50 plus category, but I know you've had some. Yeah. When you're dealing with those guys or those ladies, whoever you're coaching, what are you hearing them talk about? What's on their mind? What are you learning from them? How are you helping them overcome their problems? Like what's sort of some themes that you're seeing in people from that age group?
Well, I mean, the biggest piece, that so many of them, wrestle with is, just, I'm not where I thought I'd be by now.
Oh, wow.
We build so much of our life off of expectation. we have something in our head, some fantasy of what it's supposed to look like, what it's supposed to be like. And that plays against us. And so when you realize that that is just another story, you set yourself free of that expectation. And one of the things I say in the book is you're exactly where you're supposed to be right now, because you're not ready for the next thing. Otherwise you'd be at the next thing.
Yeah.
You're still hanging on to an identity from the old thing, trying to twist that old identity into this new formation. It's never going to happen. And our life is built on this evolution. Our life is built on this change and transformation. And it's kind of like understanding, that you're only where you are right now because of the choices you made yesterday. And if you want to change your tomorrow, then change the choice today. Right? There's this acronym that says today, it's the only day actually yours. And you can't do anything about the past, and you can do everything you can to try and control the future, but all you're doing is investing in it. You really don't know how it's going to turn out.
Yeah.
So what if you let go of the expectation and just choose today, I'm going to be a little bit better today than I was yesterday. I'm going to learn something I'm going to apply something today. I'm going to take a step forward in something today. That's one of the biggest things. I think another one would be, I feel like I'm sabotaging myself all the time. Why do I self-sabotage? And that's kind of a self-aware leader to even know that that's what's going on.
Yeah.
But that would be, again, this kind of nervous system psychology identity type of conversation where if what you know is here and you're trying to get there, it's almost like these walls keep pushing you back to where you came from. And it's super subconscious. And so sometimes you could be stepping out to do something and suddenly you open up your mouth and you blabber a bunch of stuff. And you're like, where did that come from? I just sounded like a complete idiot. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Or you've got that really important call in the morning, or that meeting in the morning. And suddenly you slept in and you don't know why. Like these subconscious things create sabotage because on some level you don't believe you belong. Right? And I'm talking people who are, one of my clients, $100 million health IT company. And he's operating as both the CTO and the CFO. And I say, control freak much?
Yeah.
And he owned 70% of the company. So he had all of this equity. The company was doing really well and he could not give up the reins. Meanwhile, he's miserable. He's drinking like a fish. He's gambling like literally hundreds of thousands of dollars in a night he would lose. And then, of course, a few weeks later, he'd win a few 100,000 back. It was crazy. And his wife is just not happy. She doesn't want any part of it. And so now their marriage is on the brinks. And we started working together. And once I gave him definition, I call it the Spice Girl principle. Tell me what you want, what you really, really want.
That's good.
And he said, I want
to
travel.
Steal that.
Right, feel free. I want to travel. I want to eat foods all over the world. And I want to expose my young kids to what the world has to offer. And I want to stop gambling. I want to become a professional poker player. And that began the trajectory. So he backfilled himself by hiring a CTO, hired a CFO, both of which were better than he was.
Sure.
He went and took a board position in the company. So he only has to show up once a month.
Right.
And now he gets to practice trust. Meanwhile, last I checked, he's up over $800,000 on the WSOP, on the World Series of Poker.
Wow.
And he's traveling all over the world playing poker gigs, on a cruise ship in the Mediterranean or someplace in Italy or blah, blah, blah. And it was a shift of him to say, I don't want to self-sabotage myself. I want to do this different. And we started working on the identity. The identity created a new belief system. That belief system created new behaviors. The new behaviors gave him different outcomes.
Wow. How much does comparison play into that with people who are struggling with those things, where they say they're not quite where they think they should be? Because again, these guys you're dealing with are playing at a very high level, and for most people, they'd say, "What in the world do you have to complain about?" I want your life. Yeah. How much does that play into it?
A lot, and I would say there's also like competition is also a part of it, right? Because comparison for some of these is not like a comparison like you and I would have. It might be more aligned to a comparison of what my dad's expectations were. Right. Now that's not to say they don't compare them with themselves. Again, it's more of a competition more than it is, comparison. Some of my clients don't spend a whole lot of time looking at others. They're their own worst enemy. Mm. They don't have a lot of excess bandwidth to wonder how someone else is doing it. They just focus on their thing, which is another lesson. A really powerful lesson is like, yeah, it's the only thing you can control. And then that becomes a chip on the shoulder. That's what got them where they're at. Something somewhere was driving them because they're trying to compensate or trying to validate who they see themselves to be. And part of my job is to help them get rid of that chip on their shoulder so they can operate from a different place. Because one of the things that I teach is as long as you're doing it from a chip on your shoulder, you're doing it from something outside and you'll never satisfy it, versus changing the dynamics to where you turn this internal and you come from a place of expansion. And now you do what you do, you chase what you chase because it's an expression, this natural, organic expression of who you are and who you see yourself to be. The comparison thing, criticism, and then confusion. Those are like the C's, or circumstance. So 4 C's, right? Okay. So criticism is, they're the worst critic. Comparison, yes, that's a comparison of someone else, something else, whatever. Circumstances, I'm where I am because of the politics. I'm where I am because of the economy. I'm where I am because my family situation. I'm where I am, blah, blah, blah. It's all because of a circumstance. Or the fourth one would be confusion. And this is where I love to ask the question, what are you choosing to be confused about?
Right.
Because confusion is only because on some level you're clouding your brain with noise around some of these other things. And that self-sabotage, that shadow we talked about is like putting your head into a spin. And you're like, well, I don't trust myself to make a decision. Mm. I don't believe this is the right decision. What if I make a wrong one? And et cetera, et cetera. It goes into all this different thing. And then it's like, if you were already where you were needed to be right now, let's say flash forward a year from now, and you've got everything you said you dreamed to create, what would you be telling yourself right now? Do that.
So you're saying confusion is a choice?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Wow. That's amazing.
It's a defense mechanism.
Yeah. I mean, I guess confusion can be real in a moment, but long-term confusion is unacceptable. Like there's no reason to stay there. Yeah, because you can figure it out. I would love for you to talk to our audience just a little bit about, even at our age, even as you get older, like it's not too late to have a coach. It's a valuable asset to have a coach. And I think it's important to say it, not only because of what you'll say around it, but also because I think in our culture right now, coaching has become, it's much more saturated than it was, when you started or when I started. And so you and I know that there's a difference between the guys who are actually doing it right and the guys who are just trying to get into it and don't know what they're doing. But
what, the 23-year-old life coach?
Right. Oh my gosh. Don't get me started on that. But so let's educate us a little bit about the value of coaching, how you've used it, how you see it playing out in your clients' lives. You're not promoting yourself. I just want you to talk about the effect of coaching itself.
Yeah. So one of my favorite quotes is that we all need someone outside ourselves to read the label on our jar. Mm. And we think we can figure out our stuff. And especially if you're a high achiever, you're highly talented and you have been able to figure a lot of stuff out. But every one of us are really good at fixing everyone else's stuff. But when it comes to our own, is kind of like where we get the most tangled up. And it can be highly frustrating.
Yeah.
I've spent just over 150 grand on coaching for me.
Yeah.
And some of that was for my head junk. Some of that was for how to build my business, how to do sales, how to do outbound. I've paid for help with even how to do my YouTube videos. And now I have a mindset coach who's helping me getting ready to launch this book, because this book kicked my butt. I'm writing this book, and I like to say the book wrote me.
Wow. Yeah.
Because as I'm writing it, it's like, who are you to say these things? Who are you to be respected for these things? Like, even I'm having some of those questions, like, dang it, you're not Tony Robbins. You're not, Mel Robbins. You're not, this person or that person. Who do you think you are? And I'm like, no, this is exactly where I'm supposed to be. And I've had to go through all that stuff. And so my mindset coach has really helped me reframe some stuff. And so coaching is where you invite somebody else who's been where you want to go to show you how to get there faster. That's the simplest way I can say it. Yeah. If you want to compress time, get somebody who can take you on the ride. And that's what a coach does. Now, it's different than therapy. Now, that's not to say I don't do any therapy. I feel like sometimes I'm doing therapy, helping process some stuff. But generally speaking, the difference I would say between therapy and coaching is the lean. And what I mean by that is, to me, therapy is where the guide is leaning back and they're inviting you to discover your own answers. And they ask questions to pull things out of you. Whereas a coach leans towards you and makes demands and puts pressure for accountability, for identity, for belief. And I'm a potty mouth when I'm coaching. Let's be honest, I'm a potty mouth all the time. But I don't know how you rate this show, so I won't say any of the words I say, but I can bleep you out. I speak to my clients in ways that get their attention because no one else has the guts to speak the truth that I speak. I don't have to worry about someone not liking me. That's not my ethos. My job isn't here to be your friend. My job is to be friendly, but my love is hard.
Yeah.
And I'm going to tell you the things that you need to hear to get to where you want to go, because no one else has the brass to tell you.
Yeah.
And so that's where I'm putting that tone on for you as an example of my coaching. So that my client, it's funny because my wife says, I think sometimes your clients is like a battered child. And I was like, I'm like, no, it's like they show up because I put that pressure on them, because I speak to them so plainly, because I don't put up with their BS.
Yeah.
They rise to a different level, a different occasion. Like, finally, someone gets me and somebody is calling my greatness out.
Right.
And that's what we all need. Stop playing small. Your neurotransmitters in your brain want to keep you small and safe, and somebody else has to rattle your cage. It says, what are you doing?
Yeah.
You know who you are. Rise up and be the thing you know you're supposed to be. That's why I have a coach. That's why I have people speak into my life. And most people don't. Again, That's why they say status quo. That's why they say static. That's why they say distracted.
Yeah. Yeah. I have a coach as well. And I can't meet with him enough. You know what I mean? Because every time it's the same thing. I can tell him what's going on and he will cut through my crap so fast. Yeah. He'll be like, here's what I actually hear you saying, And and you said earlier about the acceleration of time and learning faster. And the truth is, as we get older, we don't have as much of that to start with. We're already playing a little bit from behind, even if we feel like we're 35, even if we're crushing it, even if we're successful, all the stuff. So what are you wasting time trying to teach yourself or watch 100 hours of YouTube videos or whatever the thing is? That's fine. Those are great resources. But when you can go, from where you need to be to where you are from where you are to where you need to be in 6 months versus 2 years, why wouldn't you do that? Especially, again, at our age, most people can afford that, some level of that. Everybody's not expensive, and you can find a coach that can speak into. So yeah, the value is so high. Well, before we run out of time, I want to ask you just a couple more questions.
Sure.
Mainly, who is influencing you? Like, who are you learning from right now? And you don't have to necessarily drop a name, but just talk about the kind of people, if not a name, who are influencing you, helping you grow, whether they're a coach or an outside influence or a friend or a book you're reading. What's speaking to your life right now more than anything else?
Life is speaking to me, and I'm listening.
Okay.
And I say that tongue in cheek, but right now it's a truth. Circumstances inside my business, inside my book, inside my clients are like pulling some stuff out of me right now. I can feel a shift and a change in the season. The way we're doing our business is changing. The way we're implementing AI into everything that we do.
Okay.
I'm getting ready for a call here in just a few minutes to help somebody, and they're not a client. They might become a client, but it's somebody that I chose to just give some time to, and I'm just going to go serve the hell out of them. And in the past, I would have taken that as an absolute sales opportunity. Like, let me jump in there and let me go for the sale, take them by the jugular, wrestle them to the ground.
Right.
And now, like, I'm magnetic in the way that I do what I do. I just go and serve and love. And then at the end of the call, I'm like, hey, that was cool. Where are you at? I'm like, I want more of that. I'm like, okay, well, this is not the time for that.
Right.
Let's set up another call and let's talk what that might look like. And then I can have a sales conversation, but it feels so much more authentic.
Yeah.
And before going to the call, I did some research and I took their profile and I took our conversations and I put them all into AI, and I have, some basis of how I've trained. I've got multiple different custom GPTs that I have for different, situations. Every one of my clients has their own custom GPT where every one of our conversations are recorded. They know that GPT knows my clients sometimes even better than I do.
Sure.
It helps me find, the patterns and some of the things according to all of the philosophy that I've brought to it. And so I put that all up in there. So I'm getting in this call with this guy, and my own brain is inside of this GPT, and it's saying, hey, here's a thing, here's a thing, here's a thing. Here's given words to things he's feeling that he doesn't, that he's never been able to put words to.
Yeah.
And these are all changes. So one is I'm learning from adjusting and adapting to the current realities. Number two, my coach, Dan Martell, kicks my ass all the time. And if it's not on one of our calls, it's because I've got all of the recordings and stuff and trainings that I'm listening to. And I listen to them almost daily on my way to the gym or back from the gym or at the gym. Alan Sultanic is a marketer that I think is one of the most aligned and congruent marketers screw up everything. And he's one of the few that I think what he does is to help change the world and be generous and teach everybody else how to do it too.
You don't hear that about marketing people very often.
Exactly. Yeah. And I surround myself with people with a similar vibe of abundance as what I try to give off. And if I can't be around those kinds of people, I will go find those kinds of people.
Yeah.
And we would like to think in our minds a couple of different things. And before we wrap up, these are some thoughts that just came to me. One is we think our own transformation needs to be hard and take a long time. And even that is a story we tell ourselves, as if all of our limiting beliefs are some kind of a sequoia or a redwood with roots that go deep into the earth, and it'll be so hard to get them out. It's like, no, belief systems are choices. Like I said before, so you can choose something different starting today. And transformation in your life can be easy and can be faster if you'll learn to let go and trust the process and trust yourself.
Yeah.
You can get so much further faster. And then the last thing I was going to say is, as I'm surrounding myself with my ethos, with the kinds of people, the caliber of people I want to be around, it's only because the inputs I spoke about earlier, you can either listen to talk radio, newscasts, even Sports Center and all the sporting things. Everything's agitation. And it's all to heighten responses so that you'll stick around longer and they can get ad revenue.
Yeah, it's constant clickbait. Yeah.
Constant, right? Or I can spend my time and my energy into the things that bring me life and challenge me to transform my own identity or belief systems. You get to choose. The only person that can do that is you. You can choose to click something off and click something on, to open this book or close this book. Like, you get to choose. And so I surround my world with books and audiobooks and YouTube and whatever else around all the things that I want to feed into myself. Everything else, I protect. I have a minimal understanding of what's going on in the world.
Yeah.
And I'm fine with that.
Yeah. That's a common theme I've found with people who are really, really getting after it, is turning off the noise, turning off the news. My wife and I are the same way. Our philosophy is, if it's important enough and big enough, somebody will tell us.
Yep, they will.
And I'll do a little scanning every here and there, but I don't dwell on it. And if it's even remotely negative, I don't repeat it to her because she doesn't want to hear it. So it's like we've kind of gotten into that same mode. Yeah, but yeah, protecting, and you're being intentional. I mean, that's what's so great about what you're saying. Everything you've said today, like, you've been very intentional, strategic. You've thought about it. You're making choices, to use your language, constantly choosing the better path versus the worst path. It's not always the easiest path, but it's the most rewarding path.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, man, this has been phenomenal. And I feel like we just need to plan on doing this again, maybe in 6 months or a year, and just pick it up and keep going. Cause I've learned so much from you today. It's been awesome. And I just on behalf of everybody watching and listening, I'm just so thankful that you've given us your time today.
My pleasure. And Mark, I just want to take a moment too, to like give you your flowers. Like, you came from, the film, television, whatever space, make a transition and go into kind of a faith, whatever space. And then to make a transition, it's like, I'm going to bring meaning and contribution to the world. And that's the way you're showing up. And there's nothing harder and more fulfilling all at the same time. And while you're giving and giving and giving, I just also want to pour into you to say it's worth it. You deserve it. And you have what it takes to make this everything in your heart desires.
Man, that means so much coming from you. I appreciate that. Appreciate you, buddy.
Appreciate you too, Mark.
Wow, what an incredible episode. I told you up front it was going to be like nothing you'd ever heard, and sure enough, it fulfilled that promise. What an amazing coach, an amazing guy, super smart, such great insights. For me, I know I took a lot away from that personally, really challenged by the fact that we need someone outside to read the jar, to read the label on the jar. I think that's a beautiful way of saying that. And as a coach and someone who's hired coaches and has a current coach and gets it, it was still a refreshing way to look at that, to think, we just can't see everything on the inside. We've got blind spots. And so it's so helpful to have somebody else come along and call out in you what they see in you, what God is telling them that you have, the leadership stuff that God has put in you, the ability to make something happen, the ability to do something new, the ability to create. And there's no better time than your 50s, 60s, and 70s. I mean, we're living our best life right now, and it's time that we step into the calling that God has for us. So excited to have had that time. And I don't know about you, I'm going to go back and listen to it probably several times, and already have listened to it several times. So it's going to be amazing. Hey, super excited about next week. Next week is a great friend of mine named Traylor Lovern, or Trey, we call him. And Trey is a prolific entrepreneur, founded many ministries, many different companies. He's a brilliant marketer. And he's just an incredibly fun person to talk to. And the great thing that Trey's going to talk about a lot is about the fact that we seem to be missing playfulness in our life. He talks a lot about the spirit of play, the spirit of being lighthearted and fun and full of joy, and really experiencing life sort of like a child does, in the sense of looking for those moments and just being present wherever you are. And he has some incredible insights. Can't wait to talk to him next week. Join us then. Make sure you share this with your friends, send links, share links. If you get on our mailing list, you'll get access to some of the social posts that we do, the actual files where you can take those and put them on your socials, do whatever you want. But we appreciate the excitement, the support, the encouragement that you guys are bringing to the table, because as I've said from day one, this is not about me. It's not my thing. It's our thing. I'm just the facilitator. I'm just the host, just trying to get things done, coordinating some stuff. But I'm with you. I'm sitting here trying to learn from these guys, these ladies, some incredible things. And it's been an amazing run so far. So don't miss next week with Trailer, and we will see you then.